Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Wichita Vice.
Yes.
Yeah, here we go.
Straight from the Fortress of Solitude. It's the off-brand Superman, Marquez Christopher Eason.
And flying high, it's your Captain Chris with a K.
I still don't have a punchline to that, but I will get one, I promise. You guys, welcome back to all my comic book nerds. We are back finally here. We're going to dive in today with Echo, Ronin, and for our villains, we got Count Nefaria and the one, the only Kingpin. Before we dive in, let's go ahead and take a quick pause and thank our following sponsors.
Hey guys, why don't you check out She Barber Cuts Barbershop and give Markeisha Brown, the licensed professional barber there, a call at 316-218-3566 for all your haircut needs. She's got cuts for kids, adults, and for those looking for the good one, the deluxe with beard trims, wash, and hot towels. So don't forget to give Markeisha a call at She Barber Cuts and see her at 2319 North Ridge, Barber Suite 6A here in Wichita, Kansas.
Okay, you guys, do not forget, we will do a breakdown on these comic books. This is going to be brought to you by Prairie Dog Comics. Thank you guys for giving us insights on the comic books as well. So let's go ahead and dive into the first character. We saw that Disney put out the new show, Marvel Echo. So let's talk a little bit about Echo here. Well, we know that Marvel Echo was created by David Mack and Joe Quesada. She appeared in Daredevil issue number 9 back in December 1999. And a little bit about her powers. We know she's an effective fighter. She's got photographic memory, very athletic. And with the affiliations, the people that she hangs out with, we know she's part of the Daughters of Liberty. She's a part of the New Avengers, the Hand, and the Avengers. So let's kick it off with you, Marquez. Welcome back, my friend. I'm glad to see you.
Thank you.
Let's talk about Echo. What can we know about her?
She reminds me a lot of the Taskmaster.
Mm-hmm. I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah, she could mimic anyone's fighting style. She has a lot of cool abilities. I guess it's really, you think about how she could mimic. I don't think she could mimic strength or power or energy projection. I think it's just a system of movement. I think it's just her. It has to do with her awareness.
Photographic reflexes is what they call it.
Or photographic.
Which I believe Taskmaster has that same gifting.
Well, in every comic book universe, there's 2, 3, 4, 5 characters that are alike. Every video game adaptation of whatnot. But it's Echo is just one of those characters. Like I said, I don't think they really, from watching the show, I don't think they really know what they want to do with her. I don't know if you guys agree with this, but I feel like they can't decide if they want her to be an anti-hero, a villain, or a hero. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. But
what do you think, Chris? She's tread the line a little bit. So we've seen her already make her appearance in Hawkeye.
Mm-hmm.
We see her now. She has her own show. But she has a lot of resemblance in that Hell's Kitchen kind of atmosphere with Daredevil, because we know already that she was sent to investigate and kill Daredevil through Kingpin, which we will talk about in a little bit. Then she gets involved with the Hand. Then Elektra comes out of nowhere. But before all that happens, let's go back a little bit about her history, Chris. So we know that her father was killed by the Kingpin, but the Kingpin, conniving how he is, he tried to say Daredevil did it. So can you tell me a little bit about her backstory?
Well, and she believed that that it was someone else. In the MCU, I think they've made it, and they've kind of switched her, replaced Daredevil's character with Hawkeye's, because he was the Ronin character that went after Kingpin, and was who Kingpin was using to. He was using Echo as a bodyguard essentially against Ronin. But you're right, she was originally developed, and because of her deafness and of course Daredevil's heightened senses revolve around mostly sound, hearing and stuff, so she could work in an extremely loud environment and fight him where his heightened senses weren't as active. So she was kind of the antithesis from Kingpin's perspective to be able to fight against Daredevil. In the comic books, they actually wound up becoming lovers. Surprise, surprise! As real life, in their real life, as Matt Murdock and Maya Lopez, they became around each other, and she was actually working to kill Daredevil and had him almost dead. And she pulled off the mask and finds out it's Matt, and then then he uses her affections probably a little bit on it for his side to get her to understand that it was actually Daredevil, or it was actually Kingpin. He's been using her the whole time, and then it kind of lines back up with like the Marvel show, which happens before the show. It's at the end of the Hawkeye show where she takes out Kingpin with a pistol to the eyeball.
Okay, yeah. Spoiler alert.
Well, that was
It was in the comic
2 years
book.
ago
Yeah,
too.
okay, yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
and another thing is too that the thing was that her father, Crazy Horse, did dealings with Kingpin, and so
Right, he was a
Kingpin ended
subordinate.
up killing him, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. He kills him, makes a promise to look after his daughter and raise her right, which he does. He agrees, and people notice, why does she have that white handprint in her
Right.
face? It's because she had her father's blood on her face,
Right.
and so that handprint there. So thank goodness it wasn't a tattoo, but it was just
Yeah,
a memory of she's doing it. So she's had quite a bit of a history, and especially she's had her affiliations with the Avengers, and on one of them she's crossed over with the X-Men. On one, when she went on her retreat after she found out that Fisk was alive, Kingpin was alive, she went away and she ran across one of the major X-Men characters, Wolverine. So tell me a little bit more about that, Chris.
Well, I mean, she was just trying to figure out what to do, and essentially he was like, "Well, let's take care of it," and it started building that relationship, and being a little bit new. Well, not a little bit. I guess now it's 25 years old, but still in the comic book world, a newer character as opposed to your Iron Mans and Spider-Mans and things
she
like
came
that.
out in 99.
99, right? Fairly new in the comic book realm, but pretty heavily used. New Avengers, which in my opinion, I feel like the MCU's working towards the new Avengers.
Yeah.
I believe with Kate Bishop, with her, I think Falcon, new Captain America is going to be doing stuff. I know the new Avengers was kind of like Hawkeye was kind of a de facto leader, not a part of the team, but like just a mentor of the team.
Yeah.
So I think that Jeremy Renner will probably do something along those. But yeah, so she had rough childhood, even with the Kingpin helping her out. Because of her deafness, they thought she was a little not all there, so she went to a school for disabled. Found out that she could actually like play piano, even though she's deaf, just from mimicking people's movements and things like that. So then she got transferred to like a prodigy school. She learned how to fight and aim just by watching Daredevil and Bullseye's fights over and over. So not only is she a super martial artist, but she's also got dang near the aim capabilities of Bullseye.
Yeah, so her
that-
learning curve is much shorter.
Oh yeah,
because
yeah.
of her
Well,
mimicking.
and I think because we saw Taskmaster and Black Widow, and it seemed like they were leaving Taskmaster with something to do, a task to
Yeah.
complete, so to speak.
Really?
I'd like to see it, but I think if they become part of the new Avengers together, there's going to be some part in time where they kind of square off against each other, which I
Yeah,
think would be
that'd
really
awesome.
cool.
I would love to see that.
Just to give it away, you know that they're making a Thunderbolts movie. And
They
so we
could
know
go that
already
way too.
Taskmasters, we know Taskmaster is going to be in there, so stay tuned on that. Well, let's move on over to another person that has made multiple appearances, the Marvel Ronin. So let's talk a little bit about the Marvel Ronin here. And so we know that Ronin was created by David Mack and Joe Quesada, appeared in the New Avengers issue 11 back in 2005 in November. And so Ronin is broken up in different characters, but we know already that overall they share a cosmic fire generation. We know they have great telepathy and flight. So I'm going to kick it off with you, Marquez. Tell me a little bit about the Ronin characters.
Well, Clint Barton was the first, I believe, to don the Ronin persona. And then one that later passed on to Blade, and then I think Kate Bishop, and I think even Echo.
Mhm.
Wasn't she Ronin at one point?
She took the mantle for a bit.
Yeah, and I love the black and gold costume. I wish
It's a very cool costume.
I wish Ronin was a mainstay, but Ronin was always kind of that character. It was something you aspire to. You can't be Ronin forever. It's kind of like a part of. I feel like narratively, Marvel was what they're trying to do with Ronin is when a hero falls into a dark kind of despair. Yeah, he becomes disillusioned with his identity beforehand, and then he just falls into that, and then he eventually recovers and comes out of it. It's kind of like a dark place character.
Like a dark Avenger.
Like Howard the Duck? Howard the Duck, maybe?
Howard the Duck
Howard
is a
the
dark
Duck.
character. Carlos, really?
Darkwing Duck, maybe.
Yes, Darkwing Duck. You gotta love Darkwing Duck. Yeah, but that's really the Ronin persona. It's not really tied to one particular character's main identity, which is kind of a shame because I always felt like Ronin could have been Marvel's Batman, you know? And I feel like they kind of just, okay, they weren't really sure what they wanted to do with the character, so okay,
He's too dark for Marvel. The full-on Ronin character.
That dark, avenging anti-hero, it's just, when you think of that persona, you immediately think of DC's Batman.
Right. But that's what I mean. Like, for Marvel, they're like, okay, Clint, you were that for a couple weeks, but you got to go be happy guy again.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I don't know.
Your family's back after the blip. Put the costume away.
Yeah. Kind of
Well, we know in the Marvel in the comic books, Echo, when she dons the Ronin, I mean, she's at a new level, and like I said, she runs across into Elektra, the Hand, and eventually she's attacking on new people, and she dies. She dies quite a bit in these comic books, but finds a way to come back. It kind of sounds
Don't
like
they
Elektra.
all?
So, but indeed, Ronin is a unique character. I know in the Avengers movie, they were doing that with the Hawkeye, but I just felt like he was just an angry Ninja Turtle. That's what. Remember who was the one that was the Ronin in the Ninja Turtles? Who was it?
Michelangelo.
Yeah.
So it was like
He was the angriest too.
No, Raphael was the angriest. But
Was it Michelangelo that was the?
Michelangelo was the chillest. Give him some pizza.
It was.
In the latest comic book story, I guess I shouldn't have given that away, but you don't know who the Ronin is because he has all four of their weapons, the Ninja Turtles, and they don't reveal that till the mid book. Awesome story, by the way, guys.
I'm gonna dive in. I'm gonna check it out.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Well, all right, you guys. That wraps up with the heroes. Let's go and take a quick pause so we can talk about the villains.
With spring here and all the storms on their way, you need to make sure you have the proper home, auto, and all your properties insured. We here at Razor Cut Information just can't get enough of our favorite insurance man, Ernie Ruelas. Please visit Ernie and his State Farm agency at 11330 East Central Avenue, Suite 400, Wichita, Kansas, 316-682-2300. Thank you so much, Ernie.
All right, villain coming up. We have Count Nefaria. Count Nefaria was created by Stan Lee and Don Heck. He appeared in the Avengers issue number 13 back in February of 1965. He's got quite a bit of powers here. So prior, he was just a normal, regular human, but later on through the comic books, he was able to become a constructed creator, energy vampirism, ionic conversion, healing factor, invulnerability, teleportation, immortality. Let's kick it off with you, Marquez. Tell me a little bit more about Count Nefaria.
I always thought he was another Mandarin. He always just struck me as like a knockoff Mandarin, except that Mandarin, his power originally came from the rings. That not the rings we see in Shang-Chi, the bracelets more, but they were actually rings that controlled a different element, like a different part of the electromagnetic spectrum, fire, ice, electricity, earth, and things of that nature. But Count Nefarious, to me, that's what he was. I mean, I'm not familiar with too many of the stories or the books that he appeared in, but I always liked the character. Like when he showed up, we knew it was going to be some destructive.
When I watched him in the cartoon series, he reminds me a lot of Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
He reminds me of an aristocrat. And a finesse. He's got this finesse thing going on, and he's just a real calculated villain. Well, we know his back roots is he's from Italian roots. He's very wealthy, and we know that also he was in charge of a big mafia group called the Maggia. And so, indeed, he came to the United States, and the first up on the list was to take on the Avengers. But before that, Chris, any words to dive in on?
I'm not super familiar with Nefaria. I know he was around as a very common villain in the early days, golden age, I guess, maybe of comics. Pretty often, it seemed to always have ways to get out of sticky situations with his dream master, dream maker type stuff. But
Well, his entanglement with the Avengers, he has become a formidable foe to the Avengers. At first, he reminded me of a lot of Lex Luthor. He has no powers, and he's going to get people that have powers.
Yeah.
That makes no, but he's just his mindset. He knew how to trap them. On one of them, what he did was he hosted a charity event, and what happened was is that when the Avengers showed up, they were suspended in animation.
Yeah.
He copied them, then made them out into bad guys. Kind of reminded me of like a Civil War.
Yeah.
In the movie Civil War. Oh, we're villains. You're coming after us. And next thing you know it, they were enemy number one, and he was behind the scenes.
Yeah.
But he always had it out for Iron Man.
Yeah, because he was felt like he was a little bit of envious, and that's another thing. A great thing about the character, from a villain standpoint, is the way he uses information against the hero. You know, I mean, I remember in the comic book when Kingpin found out that Matt Murdock was Daredevil, he kind of laughed about it, but he never really exploited that. You know, I mean, Captain Ferris would have used that to the point where, you know,
all family and friends.
yeah, exactly, and that's why heroes wear masks in the first place, is because of characters like Captain Ferris. You know,
But indeed, also, too, he's had his run-ins with the Fantastic Four. Like I said, the Avengers, the X-Men. He's a powerful foe. He's almost like a Superman in a sense because of the powers that he has. And, I mean, literally, he could just beat everyone if he wanted to. But he's just, like I said, just never is able to seal the deal. And I was watching a cartoon show where him and Iron Man were battling it out, and this was during that time of the Armor Wars, because remember in the Armor Wars, Iron Man lost his tech, and people were using his armor info, and they were making their own weapons and things like that. But Nefaria itself, he's just someone that just was a pain in the neck to the Avengers, and always found ways. In the comic book, he did knock off, because we don't want to use the word. Well, we can use it. Murder. He murdered I think it was Tomahawk. I believe he killed. He killed Thunderbird. Is it Thunderbird?
Thunderbird. Yeah.
Thunderbird. Yes,
Wow,
he killed.
yeah.
He killed
I was gonna
Thunderbird.
say, he had some stuff
yes.
with that.
Yeah, he killed Thunderbird, and that goes to show, like, oh, okay, so he's not. This guy's the real deal. And then with the money that he has with the resources. Remember in the Iron Man 2 when Justin Hammer told Whiplash, I have resources.
Yeah.
Resources. And there he hired villains like Living Laser, Power Man, Whirlwind, Lethal Legion. Now, for the record, Whirlwind, that guy was annoying in the Iron Man cartoons.
Yeah.
He didn't do anything. All he did was... I was like, okay, dude, go somewhere. Go somewhere.
Yeah.
But indeed, he has great affiliation with these villains, and he was a formal foe to the Avengers. All right, to the Kingpin,
Yes.
a.k.a. William
Yes.
Fisk.
Yeah.
He was created by Stan Lee and John Romita Sr. He appeared in The Amazing Spider-Man issue 50 back in 1967. His powers, well, he is a criminal mastermind, tactician. Also, he's a skilled martial artist in hand-to-hand combat. And last but not least, he is wealthy. And if he's not wealthy, he's a resourceful man. Yeah. Let's go ahead. Let's break down Kingpin. Chris, I'm going to kick it off with you.
Well, I mean, Kingpin, one of the best bowling movies ever, Woody Harrelson. But, oh, wait, not that Kingpin. Sorry.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen that one,
Wrong show, Chris.
it's a must-watch, though.
I've seen it several
Sorry.
times.
Yeah, I mean, Kingpin he's pretty awesome, really. I mean, for a bad guy, he is a major villain for Spider-Man. He's a major villain for Daredevil. He's a major villain for Echo. He's a major villain for Hawkeye and just the Avengers in general. He hasn't been super used. I mean, he has been used a fair amount in the MCU if you take in that original Daredevil show, Netflix Daredevil, as part of the MCU, which they kind of seem to have done now, having that Matt Murdock character and that Kingpin character come back as Kingpin, same actor and such. But yeah, he's a criminal mastermind, and he's just like, he's got this air about him that people, I mean, are afraid for a reason, and they don't know until you see him fight, and you're like, oh, he actually is really a bad mamma jamma guy, like ready to kick some butt, even though he doesn't necessarily look like it in most cases.
Well, that's the thing. He hires henchmen, but he can still. I mean, he is
right.
He is, and another point, he controls currently 50% of organized crime on Marvel Earth 616.
Right.
Yeah, he is like the kingpin.
Well,
It's
and
not just a name. That's also.
do you remember the Ben Affleck Daredevil
The
King,
latest-
the
latest
Kingpin
Michael
from
Clark
that?
Duncan?
Yeah,
Oh,
Michael
that's
Clark
right.
Duncan
I
is.
forgot about that.
That was actually pretty good.
I'm from Brooklyn. Like, okay.
One of the better parts of the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, to the latest pay respects to him. Yeah, indeed, he played a great Kingpin. But
Yes,
I'm
he
telling you, Vincent D'Onofrio, he's
Oh,
yeah.
just
he's the
nails it.
real deal. He really
Yeah.
impersonates the comic book.
And
Yeah.
that's the thing. They really had enough time with the original Daredevil first season, to flush out the villains and get them out there, because it's like a lot of people, they say, well, look at the portrayals of the Kingpin, and it's like, okay, they had a 2-hour movie versus a 10-episode show. I mean, it's like, say, for
Well, and I want to say the first season, I don't even think they got to Kingpin until towards the end. Like, he was just in the shadows.
yeah, but
And then, like, the second season, they were actually, like, coming up against each other.
yeah, exactly. But the thing of it is, it's like narratively, like if I were to say, like, Carlos, tell me your life story in 10 minutes, and then if I said, tell me your life story in like 4 hours, it'd be two totally.
It would
different
be a
stories.
Christopher Nolan effect for you. Hans Zimmer in the background.
and I know
electrifying.
Your temptation to exaggerate would be just too hard to avoid. So we know that you wouldn't. But no, but that's the point I'm trying to make. I mean, when you give enough time, and that's why I like the series. I like watching a show like this series, because they take their time with it and stuff like that. I mean, like I said, Vincent D'Onofrio, you cannot. I mean, he played that role.
He's just a great actor,
No,
for
and
one.
Just the look.
He has the look,
Well,
the
let's-
size.
Hey,
Yeah.
Chris, let's rewind a little bit back into the comic book series of Spider-Man. When I first saw Kingpin, I thought, oh, look at this big guy. Okay, what can he
Right,
do?
big dumb
And
guy.
Spider-Man underestimated him.
Yeah.
And
They all
he
did.
said, oh, I'll get him. And this guy is just pure muscle.
Yeah.
And people keep thinking that, oh, well, he's not nobody. Well, when he was when he was locked up, the guy's got brains. The guy is a great manipulator, a skilled linguistic skills. And when it comes to convincing, putting together, he's got logic. And the thing what I like about him so much is he knows how to take advantage of the situations that pertain to him. So in the Daredevil series, you remember when he was dealing with the hand, he was very upfront and said,
Yeah.
you don't mess with the hand.
Yeah.
I just deal a little bit. Who played? It was Sigourney Weaver, wasn't it? It was Sigourney Weaver.
Yeah.
So in the end, in that representative there, he's like, there's forces that even I don't understand, and I'm not dealing with that. And it proves that he got his hand in a lot of things that are going on.
He does.
And so, especially in the movie, when Colin Farrell played Bullseye. Bullseye is an interesting character, and I like him there. And we'll dive in with him later on. But with Kingpin is that he's got his hands in everything. He's got to deal with Spider-Man. He's got to deal with Daredevil. He's had his run-ins with the Punisher, especially in the Punisher show. So in Hell's Kitchen, he's notorious, very notorious.
He is.
So, breaking it all down here, we know that the Marvel Universe and the DC Universe, we have so much to cover. And you guys, we're back now, and we're telling the audience, you guys, if you got a character you want us to do, feel free, hit us up.
Yeah.
We want to hear from you guys. I'm so glad that we're back here, and we're going to keep going. Now, I just want to throw it out there that Silver Cause Movie Reviews is coming back. And the movie review we're going to do is Dune Part 2. So, also with Vice, next superhero movies are coming out. We know Deadpool's coming around the corner, Deadpool 3.
Yeah.
So we're going to do something big for Deadpool 3. And also the next movie's coming up. I mean, we got Phase 5 coming in. So we already know Fantastic Four lineup of characters has already been signed on. We know that Pascal is going to play Reed Richards. I'm pretty excited
that was
about
so
that.
cool. That's a great
And
casting.
then Star Wars, they greenlit the Mandalorian movie, I believe. That
Okay.
one got greenlit. So this is going to be very interesting, you guys. So I'm glad we're back.
Absolutely.
We're going to stay tuned on this. So any shout outs before we go?
Thank you all for listening. I love you all.
Yep. Thanks, audience.
Thank you guys for making this happen. And like I said, you guys, we give a shout outs always to our local places, Prairie Dogs.
Yeah.
Also, Mile High Comics back in Denver. That was a great store. I enjoyed it. It was a great time there. And also, too, we always have our local Air Capital Comic Cons here. So support your local Comic Cons, no matter how small it is. You know, have a good time and look at the comic books, read them, talk. It's just a great atmosphere to you just feel young again. So thank you guys. Stay tuned, and we will see you in the new and next episode. We're out.